It is very nice to be with you. I particularly wanted to draw attention to the folks who've been a part of helping pull this together. What we would call the programming team has consisted of myself, Jay Clark, who's done a lot of heavy lifting on the technology side with the support of some of his folks back in Nampa, Idaho. Brad, Pete, where are you? There you are. Okay. And Tim Jory, this back there. And Emily, some of you have had interaction by email with Emily Barron. She's been wonderful. She's our event coordinator, so she's done that remotely, so she's not able to be with us. But I just want to let you know who some of those folks were. What I want to talk about just for a few minutes is a couple things. One, how did we get here? What's the road that led to tonight? A little bit of history, not a lot, but I'm big in context, right? I want to know where do people come from, who are people behind this, where did we start, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll mention that. I'll talk briefly about what we hope will be some of the collaborative outcomes, and then via some of the great brain power of the guys from Vision Synergy I'll mention, with some of their key principles that they've figured out over the decades about how partnership and just kind of working together works best. So, how do we get here? My name is Clyde. I am with the Vision Story Network. I'm based in Southern California, and I spent 23 years in Campus Crusade Prize on 15 different conferences, 15 years of campus ministry on 3 different continents, and then we left Paris, France in the year 2000 to plant ourselves in Southern California, where we got to work with the Jesus Film Project and got to develop a bunch of new media, very exciting stuff. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, a couple guys got together and said, hey, let's help the body of Christ communicate in a visual world in a visual way, and that's how the Vision Story Network was born. Our thing is we are all about helping the body of Christ proclaim the good news in a visual way in a visual world. So whether it's the big screen, the small screen, a laptop screen, or now the mobile device, and small screen I mean television screen, or now the mobile device, how do we communicate Christ and the kingdom in that way? So we kind of look for opportunities, where are places where there can be synergy that it doesn't exist. And so a couple of years ago, a little over 2 years ago at this time, we had the opportunity to connect with some very innovative people like yourselves. Like, okay, so-and-so's doing something in the mobile space, so-and-so's doing this group's doing that. But we didn't see a lot of connection. So we just started connecting. And we started with some phone calls. Very simple, very low tech, very low budget, Skype calls. And I mean, I can't even remember who was in. I mean, Keith was in some of those, Antoine was in some of those calls. I mean, I don't know, there were probably 7 or 8 of us. And then, you just find out more and more, oh, you need to talk to so-and-so, this group's doing that. So then that circle got a little bit larger until the point about a year and a half ago, we said, you know what, these calls are great, the virtual stuff's great, Google Docs is great, what if we actually get together? So we decided to do that. And so we did. We pulled a little team together. We gathered last year, almost this time, in Ringgold, Virginia. I don't know how far that is from here, but not too far away. Stephen and Nancy Keel were our extraordinarily gracious hosts because it was such a small gathering. There were 13 of us there physically, and then we had 3 that were able to participate remotely. So they had us, we met and lodged and ate in their house. And so that actually created this very, very warm, literally we met in the family room, sat next to the piano and had a great time. And really that was an interesting thing because out of that came greater connection, greater vision, greater clarity. We kind of came up with this vision statement. We actually defined what we felt was mobile ministry, and I don't have the definition, so we'll have to make sure we say that at some point. And then a number of collaborative things came out of that. And so I think that's our prayer, is that there will be a couple of things that happen, that you will walk away better equipped. You'll learn some things that will help you go from where you are to where you need to go. That you will be better connected, that you'll meet people who you can know, can ask questions of, who you can partner with potentially, and then even getting involved in larger collaborative things. And that just needs to happen very relationally and very organically. But out of that, we had a number of really encouraging things happen, and I'll share about that briefly. So anyway, that's kind of our really short story. So you know, we're all volunteers. I mean, we all do our own thing within our own organizations. And so we said, you know what, we need to do this again. And so we decided, let's do it. And I think we were going to go up to Tim's area, and I think you, Tim, bailed on us. For some reason, we didn't go up your way, Tim. And then we looked for another opportunity, and I guess where Tim said, oh, that's right, you bailed on us. That's right, he's not sure up there. No, you can't go to my house. So anyway, I think Tim said, yeah, let's come here. So Jarvis has been very gracious to bring us in and host us and flex to us because they don't normally do events on weekends. It's been marvelous. So that's really, I mean, the very quick and short story. The great news is we, you know, initially were with the diagrams thought that we have space for 30. And then we later went and found out, well, actually these walls can be blown away. So we ended up having to do that because the interest kept growing. We thought a faith goal for us would be 30. We had 13, you know, who actually took the time to come and be with us last year. And as I think we know now, there are 39 of us who are planning to be here, and another up to 15 who will participate in some way via the remote opportunities that we have. So, welcome. It's great to have you here. That's kind of a really short story. Would you add anything, Keith, or Brad, or anybody? I mean, it's not fancy, but it is what it is. I want to describe this gap process. So, what we did last year is we got together. First big part was let's get to know one another, but then we kind of said, what's the vision? Well, we all care deeply about the gospel of Jesus Christ. And we care deeply that everyone would have the opportunity to encounter the truth and grace of Jesus and his kingdom. And we care deeply about churches being planted to the very end of the earth. So that is our passion. That is our pulse. That's why we are here, is because we love Jesus and we care deeply about his kingdom coming to the ends of the earth. And so we just recognize that the mobile platform is a huge game changer, as you all know, because you're in the room. But as we started looking around 2 years ago, you know, most of the folks who were doing stuff, some of the organizations doing phenomenal stuff, but relatively unconnected. So we said, well, let's just see how we can do more together. And again, just kind of stirring this pot relationally. So that's why you're here in the room. So we have this vision. How do we reach the ends of the earth? And then, okay, here's the technology. Technology is a means, it's not an end. So the end is not mobile. The end is Christ and his kingdom coming. But as you know, the mobile technology is a radically transforming technology to the ends of the earth. So how then could we possibly leverage that for the sake of the kingdom? And really then we did this whole thinking process of gaps. Like, what if we were to be, in 10 years, be able to say that every person has an opportunity to encounter Christ in a way that makes sense to them in their language, culture, and context over their mobile device, whatever that may be. Then it would really require a move, a powerful move of God's Spirit, of just a lot of things happening. Individual organizations taking risks, seeing things happen, partnerships being formed, just God's Spirit just blowing and moving. And so we said, well, what would keep that from actually becoming true within the next 10 years? And so we came up with this gap list, you know, the top 10 gaps that would be in the way of that vision becoming reality. And so we identified those, and I think I have those. Let me just back on very quickly. By the way, if you are online, and how many of you are online? Because we do want that. We kind of encourage that. If you're not, it's not a total disadvantage, but it is a bit of a help. We're going to be doing a number of things collaboratively. So we're using some Google Docs. We're going to be taking some kind of crowdsourcing notes here. So if you are online and you're able to go to the schedule page, that's going to be kind of our primary kind of launch page. And now we place at the top of that some links that will take you to some resources that will be useful. So for example, right now I'm going to go to that page and I'm going to look at our 2010 executive summary. I click on that. And then that takes me to the executive summary. So last year when we met, we identified a great many gaps, and we came up with 10 that we felt were the most critical in this order. that would keep a global movement of mobile ministry taking place. And the number one, you have access to a great amount. I'm going to read it anyway. There's an awareness gap. Too few people in ministries are aware of just how profound the mobile movement is. Number two, there's a research or experience gap. There's just not enough knowledge, hard knowledge out there that's really in our hands. Three, there's a lack of any roadmap that's helping ministries figure out how it is that we do or they do mobile ministry. There was a lack of how-tos and best practices that document what really makes effective ministry possible through a mobile platform. Legal restrictions preventing content from being able to be converted for multiple formats. Number six, as always, there's always a funding gap. Number seven, technological difficulties, and then eight was security concerns. So we're going to, as we go, we're going to hear a number of presenters who are really top-notch. I mean, people who are theoreticians but also practitioners. They're in the game. They know the realities. And so we've got I'm just really fortunate. We're fortunate to have some really sharp people in the room. So as we're moving through this time, getting to know, learning, we're starting with this vision. We have a common passion. We want to be really candid about gaps. So what are the gaps? Are these gaps still the primary issues that if we are to think bigger than just our own organizations, are there other things, or are these still big things that are keeping us from seeing a true movement of ministry taking place through the mobile device? At the bit as we do that, we want to then be able to say, how can we chip away at those things? So we started a bit last year, and we'll hear just in a few minutes how we began to do that. And we want this event to help us do that even more. So tomorrow in the late afternoon session, we're going to actually take some time and do some collaborative thinking, evaluating the gaps that we've identified last year, maybe adding some new ones, reprioritizing. We do have an online document, and I think that I put that a link here. Look at that schedule page. So one of the links there is, the movement gap analysis. If you click on that, that's just where we posted the gaps last year, and we'll use that as kind of an active whiteboard where it's open for all to edit. So anyway, that's really kind of this gap analysis. And again, that's probably all you need to know for tonight. We'll go a little bit more into that. Last thing, and I'll turn it back, Brad, is this idea of collaboration is very, very powerful. I was having some conversations, I guess it was with John or a little bit earlier, and we were just talking about, their organization got together with some other organizations and they realized, wow, they have some stuff that would be really useful to us. And once that organization realized that hardware, or whatever it was, that they had invested in, that they were benefiting from, it didn't have a commercial, if you will, value, they said, look, you guys have this. Why don't you have access to it? You guys have it as well. We want it to be used and leveraged for the kingdom in the best way possible. So, the idea of collaboration is kind of messy, and who knows anybody or has heard of Vision Synergy, or the guys, Phil Butler, he wrote the book Well Connected. Brilliant guys. Phil Butler wrote the Bible on, if you will. The book is Well Connected, but it is sort of the how do you do partnership, networking, etc. They have written a lot. They've researched a lot. And they're really have boiled down 8 critical things need to happen for synergy to take place around a need. And in our case, we're saying a movement of mobile ministry is the need. We want to leverage that. So here are their 8 key principles of effective kingdom collaboration. I'll do this briefly. First of all, it is about a powerfully commonly owned vision. If we aren't committed to it, then there's no reason and there's no stickiness that will keep collaboration moving forward. This common, huge vision, and for us it's because we care about the kingdom, we care about the good news, we care about the church going to the ends of the earth. Secondly, effective collaboration has limited, achievable objectives. We could have walked away last year saying we're going to reach 10 million people through the mobile devices and get 150 organizations involved. We didn't. We came up with some very small, tangible, but real objectives. And actually, the cool thing is most of them were achieved within 3 to 6 months after the gathering. Thirdly, effective collaboration is built on trust-based relationships. So we actually extended our time a bit longer this year than we did last year because we want you to get to know one another. I mean, everybody, I'm fairly certain, knows somebody in this room, but I'm certain equally that everybody does not know everybody in this room. And that's the really cool thing, is we want you to get to know as many people as you can. So you're going to be able to do that through roundtables by design, because we want you to be able to look across the table. We'll have interaction times. We have, meals are big, breaks are big. You're going to hear from a lot of different people. You just heard everybody present their names very quickly because we want you to know who they are and who they represent. We'll do a little bit longer version of that tomorrow so you can explain a little bit more about your organization. But we want you to begin to know people so that you can trust them. And once you trust them, then you can actually consider doing stuff that takes a little bit of risk. Fourth, effective collaboration needs a facilitator. So I kind of jumped into this space, but we've got a little steering committee team that's kind of been helping kind of foster this growing loose affiliation of people. Fifth, effective collaboration is a process and not an event. This is an event, so collaboration is much, much larger than this. I mean, just in what we now call the Mobile Ministry Forum, it's been roughly 2 years, but I just, if there's 50 of us kind of connected here tonight, there have been at least 100 of us who connected in some way, shape, or form around this mobile conversation in the last 2 years. And it needs to be that way. And I'd say for the core of us who've been kind of in this for the last year, helping this thing go and grow, we're in it for the long haul. And that excites me. I mean, I'm going to be doing this in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I'm 49, so I'm hoping, I'm praying, I'm believing I got 20 good years left in me. And I see myself staying in the game for a long time, because when you can stay in the process, extraordinary things can happen. 6, effective collaboration is made up of partners with clear identities and visions. No one is asked at all to sacrifice who they are and their particular strengths, their particular competencies. You need to own those. You need to have those. Your flavor, whatever it is that you do well and who you are, be who you are. Absolutely. We want people to know which banner you fly under, because it does make a difference. There's flavors and colors and theologies and what have you, but again, we're all under the banner of Christ, and that's where we want to keep that one at the top, but we don't want to ignore the fact that there are clearly individual organizations with identities and values. 7, effective collaboration acknowledges and meets expectations of key constituencies. Collaboration is most powerful when there's win, 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 win. When everybody comes in, they offer something, and they walk away with something more. If your organization, if you're not benefiting, it doesn't make sense to spend the time or the money or the energy to be involved in whatever it is, gathering, a phone call, a collaborative effort. Lastly, effective collaboration focuses on what the participants have in common. If our organizations are circles with missions and again, identity and values, there's just lots of circles here in the room. But, we're looking for that overlap where there is a sweet spot, where there's enough commonality that, yes, it makes sense. In fact, it goes beyond making sense. It is urgent and critical that we be in this room, because we have much to learn as well as much to offer. And that is one of the reasons we do ask, and I know it's not possible for everyone, but we do ask as much as possible. We ask people to come and stay straight through till 4:30 on Tuesday, because we start high altitude and then we slowly come down. And really that last hour to 90 minutes is where we actually do start taking names and like, okay, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to take that. And that's cool. That happens. So anyway, if you can, we're asking that. I know there are some of us like me. I've got a 7:30 flight on Tuesday night to LAX, so I'll be jetting out probably at 4:30 or 4:40. But anyway, I'm here till I'm running the race till 4:30.